Hi, welcome to the school year program November the 7th lesson plan overview. Today we are going to look at the social emotional learning lesson and public speaking lessons for grades 7th and 8th. So in your email, you will receive the lesson plan overview. It is very condensed version of the implementation of the lesson. Once again, you will see the 7th grade and 8th grade schedules. Session 1 will begin with social emotional learning, or if students opt to take coding adventures, they will take coding. And then session 2, they will take public speaking. For 8th grade, they will start off with public speaking, and then for their session 2, they will take social emotional learning. So for the morning meeting, it's a 15-minute session. Again, we will start off with a morning meeting with myself, getting them acclimated to the school year program, going over expectations. I also will provide students with the virtual schedule for the day if they have not received their schedules via email. They will go out always the day before with your Zoom links that you will create. And we will just do quick temperature checks, and I will dismiss them to their virtual classroom session 1. So let's dig into the actual lessons. First, I will look at the social emotional learning lessons. We will focus on self-advocacy this Saturday, and then for public speaking, we will discuss navigating difficult conversations. So for the social emotional learning lesson, the guiding question is, how should you demonstrate advocacy skills and the ability to assert self when necessary? So for this lesson, the technology resources that you will use are Google Slides, Jamboard, a Google Form, and then a Padlet is optional. So let's dig into the standards that we want to cover. We're using the standards from the American School Counselor Association on mindsets and behaviors. And specifically, we're looking at demonstrating advocacy skills and ability to assert self when necessary. So it's an actual standard for emotional learning and growth, development in youth. So our academic vocabulary is self-advocacy, and just our final product that students will complete is the Advocate Yourself formative assessment, which is a quick Google form. This is the breakdown of the lesson, and the purpose is to understand the importance of advocacy and how to develop this trait in oneself in order for someone to express their needs appropriately to achieve a goal. So you can review the following pieces of the instructional cycle. However, I am going to open up the Google Slides presentation because it will include all components of the instructional cycle, starting with the learning standards and the guiding question. So let's jump into the Google Slides presentation. So this Google Slides presentation will also be be provided to you on Google Classroom, and I will quickly present it. So self-advocacy. So the guiding question again is, how would you demonstrate advocacy skills and the ability to assert self when necessary? Your do now, how would you define self-advocacy? So students are going to answer that question and then answer also what are some examples from history, the media, etc., of people who have been good self-advocates. They can, answers may vary. They can often elaborate if you have the time to explain why they chose those people, or examples of a person who advocated for themselves. And then we will go into the hook. So how do you already self-advocate? Have students drop in the chat box ways in which they feel that they've already self-advocated for themselves. Again, these answers may vary, but I kind of want you all to facilitate an open dialogue where students can just share where they feel are ways that they have advocated for themselves or various scenarios in their personal experiences. And then also I want them to check out this video. It's a video
self-advocacy.
And it really provides just strategies to implement self-advocacy effectively. And I'm going to minimize and just do the view mode so that we can actually look at some footnotes that were included. So the slide then goes over what is self-advocacy, which is the ability to articulate one's needs and make informed decisions about the support necessary to meet those needs. Then we will go into why is self-advocacy important. Please go over this slide, and then the next following slides will be strategies on the ways in which students can advocate for themselves appropriately in various contexts. So again, they should know that they need to identify actually what the need is, research information on resources to help meet those needs and who to talk with to address the needs that need to be met, speak assertively and confidently, which just goes into social skills and being able to articulate clearly their needs in a respectful manner, but in order to establish assertiveness so that others can sense the urgency and the support that is needed in order to meet a goal that a student is set. So this is an important slide as well. And then don't take no for an answer. Just reiterating the importance of you have a right as an individual, as a person, for your needs to be met. And you have the right to be treated fairly and equitable in any context. And the first strategy doesn't work, you go to another way in order to ensure that you have addressed your needs to meet your goals. So this is extremely important as well. It's just establishing ways in which you can take charge of your path, even if you're not considered an authoritative figure or authority figure. It's still important that you know as students that they can take charge of their pathway, whether it's school or personal, but they can just do it in a way that is appropriate and conducive for the environment. Afterwards, for the self-advocacy skills, we're going to build the skill in groups. So you're going to put students in breakout rooms and assign each group a page on a Jamboard that is already created so that they can practice how would they address various scenarios. You can choose a spokesperson from each group to go through the strategies that they come with. So when you click the link at the bottom, it's going to be a copy of the Jamboard that was created. So once you click this copy and open it up, you're going to click make a copy for your own preference. And you will see that there are 4 different slides. So you assign students the different slides that they need to go into, and you can expand it. So if I make groups of 4, I would assign like group 1 in breakout room. You're going to answer the scenarios on page 1 only, and then do that for the other remaining 3 groups. Once the students get into their group, they can discuss it amongst themselves, various scenarios, and the scenarios are not the same for each page. So for instance, on the first page, you tried out for the basketball team and didn't make it. You have no idea why you didn't make the team. Students can add a sticky note on how they would address maybe the coach. So they could write, in order for them to advocate for themselves, I would ask to speak with the coach to address reasons why I didn't make the team, as well as offer strategies moving forward that would, help me become a better candidate during the next tryouts. They can also elaborate on, the way in which they would ask why. Could you, explain more as to why I didn't make the team? Could you provide me the actual score sheet? Because students oftentimes don't do that as well. Can you provide me the rubric or the criteria for making the team so that they can actually know that they have the right to ask those questions? And just because that they are a student does not differentiate them from being able to be respected. So then they can quickly say that, hit cancel, and they can kind of drag that note up under that. Okay, so that's just not a very effective way to advocate. However, that's just an example of just adding a sticky note, or they can add a piece of text to, if they wanted to add a text under the Jamboard, they could just, do that and then start writing. And then you can give them a timed minutes in the breakout rooms, and then convene back in the main room once they're done to discuss those questions. Once they are done, and this takes, again, in the skip lesson is built in for about 15 minutes. It can be less. They can take 10 minutes to actually complete this independent practice, which is reviewing effective ways to advocate for themselves. So this is a time where they can mention a personal anecdote and or story and narrate on how they should speak up for themselves and what strategies for speaking up do they actually do well. So do they actually research who to speak to, or do they actually are a person who doesn't take no for an answer? I know that for some students that taking no for an answer may be a struggle, especially if they don't necessarily want to come off as being disrespectful or defiant. So again, that balance between reverence and being an advocate for themselves is something that they have to differentiate between and have discernment to understand what is an appropriate way to address their concerns. So this is just a helpful tip. It takes less than 10 minutes. I think I outlined 10 minutes to complete, which is totally fine. And then they have an exit ticket. So they're going to view a video clip, which is another scenario, and you can have a group discussion on how this person could advocate for themselves. So basically, the teacher gave them a math problem to do, and during the class, they went over the skills and concepts to attempt to do the assignment at home, but the student was still confused. And that is a great scenario because many students oftentimes face this challenge that they are still facing issues with comprehending the skill, and they may not want to ask the teacher, but then the teacher gives them a quiz or a formative assessment of some sort or a homework assignment, and before they leave the class, their needs are not met. So it's important to kind of practice and talk this out, especially for our students wanting them to be leaders and to be able to develop those social skills, to practice that. And then once we are done with that small exit ticket, it doesn't have to last anything longer than 5 minutes. Just review the strategies that were discussed in the presentation for self-advocacy. So this lesson could take about 45 minutes to 50 minutes. Please ensure that you are facilitating the discussion, giving thoughtful and probing questions for the students, and we hope that this lesson is impactful, especially during this climate where students are going to be able to develop and enhance their ability to self-advocate. And that is part 1 of our school year program lesson plan overview.